Okay, welcome back, everyone. I think we're all almost here. The last stretch of today's conference. I know energy must be a little bit lower now than it was first thing in the morning, but I hope we can keep your attention for another hour. And we're going to have an interview, a spotlight interview with Vitaly Chernuk straight from Ukraine. He's going to tell us about the needs of Ukrainian innovators and also how Europe can best help them and cooperate with them. And then we're going to move on to a panel discussion where we're going to focus on the next EU budget a little bit more than in previous discussions. So we're going to see how we can align defense research and innovation needs with civilian research and innovation needs and marry them all in one big EU budget, which is increasingly likely looking like it's going to be very tightly integrated. So, can we have Vitaly on the screen now? Not yet? Yes, hello Vitaly, how are you? Thank you for being with us.
I'm fine, thank you for the invitation. I am proud to be here and I will try to share my experience and my point of view for development of defense sector in Ukraine.
Great. So let me quickly introduce you. So this is Vitaly Chernuk. He advises the Ukrainian government on defense innovation as head of the Innovation Development Policy Expert Group and also as an expert on Ukraine's defense innovation platform, Brave One, which I hope he will tell us about. So first things first, to set the scene, can I ask you, what's the Ukrainian defense innovation space like these days and how has it changed in the last almost 3 years since the full-scale Russian invasion?
Yeah. First of all, I like to mention that before the full-scale war in Ukraine, innovation ecosystem developed very quickly, and after full-scale war, since February 2022, our innovation ecosystem transformed very quickly, and most of our innovators change their activity and help our army to find the best technology solution to protect their home, their family, to stop the enemy, and to fight with using this new technology. So, of course, before the war, full-scale war, we have some technology association, alliance, and some other community that help us to develop our innovative ecosystem here in Ukraine and realize some interesting innovative project. We have a strong startup community, and after full-scale war, practically since March 2022, firstly, our civilian sector was more faster than state government authority because it may be connected that it was our civilian sector was more flexible and they can help our army with different technology. They found different innovation solution and provide our defense sector different technologies. One of them, if you hear about army of drones, and other project, Brave One, it's state project, state government program that help to create a defense tech and develop defense tech ecosystem here in Ukraine. And also during this more than 2 years period, we have created two Miltech accelerator, Defense Builder Accelerator and MIT's Accelerator that help our Miltech startups to develop and create a new product and scale their technology not only in Ukraine and outside also, and involve investment in the activity.
Okay, so all research hands on defense R&I
Yeah.
essentially. And so I imagine Ukraine is not alone in this at the same time. Could you tell us a little bit more about whether Ukrainian innovators are collaborating with European counterparts under any frameworks, how that happens, and is it difficult? I imagine it's not easy with different regulations and different needs and different timelines.
Practice from the first day of our activity. So was created a capability coalition together with a different country, mostly European country. Now we have some direction of activity of the coalition. First of all, IT coalition and coalition of drones. It's close to me that I can express. I can explain more about the activity. So, firstly, IT coalition now it's about 15 different countries, and for the period of 2 years period activity, they involve more than 150 million euros in their activity, and it's about different projects support our army with different technology. And drone coalition also now it's about 20, not 12 countries that also support our army. It's exist three types of support or direction of support. First is local government finance the technology, and this technology transfer to Ukraine. The second one, they finance some instruments and some additional parts that transfer in Ukraine. And here, our developers, our producers make some different projects and some different products with using their complex. And the third way is finance our project here in Ukraine through different financial instrument. One of them is Ukrainian Startup Fund or Fund of Innovation Development. It's another name of this fund. It's a good instrument for cooperation between our countries. And I have, I see a good tendency that now European, not only European companies, but mostly European countries try to open R&D center here in Kiev or other cities, mostly in Kiev and other cities of Ukraine that tested their technologies here on the polygons and the battlefield and receive feedback from the battlefield and quickly change their technology, quickly adapt their technology for the new challenges. Because every month, every 3 months, the situation on the battlefield changes, and we need to be very flexible and understand all the moments and change our technology and help our armies to protect their motherland and to fight with the enemy.
Okay, that's really interesting. So essentially, Ukraine can be kind of a testing ground for European technologies. And so earlier today, we heard that EU countries are now investing essentially in defense through its support in Ukraine, but also doing their homework. I think someone said from the last 30 years that they haven't done. But so, do you think these two investment streams are mutually exclusive? Essentially, can investing in Ukraine be a mutual benefit for both these EU countries and Ukraine if we're talking about things like testing technologies? And do you think the support should go further? And what kind of support do you think Ukrainian innovators need in this way?
Of course, it's a mutual benefit because European companies that created here office here in Ukraine, their office representatives and open R&D centers tested their technology and receive a quickly feedback from the battlefield and can change their technology, improve and scale not only here in Ukraine but in European market also. It's a mutual benefit, of course.
Okay, and can I then shift our focus a bit to EU programs? Would you say there's interest there, and is there a possibility for cooperation in defense R&I between Ukraine and the EU? Is that on the table?
Yeah, firstly, European Union, we are know about different European Union programs that support also Ukrainian innovators. First of all, we are talking about uh, European Union programs such as Horizon Europe for research and innovation. There are some different directions for development, for research and innovation activity. But at the same time, we know about a new program uh, in framework of new defense industry, uh, European defense industry strategy. It's a new program with different direction, and they also support our our innovators, our producers, we know that months ago in Kiev was open the European Union Defense Innovation Office. One of the main mission of this office is to learn situation here, local situation, and understand our main requirements, our main needs that help us to scale our technology more quickly. So I think one of the main mission of this office is to provide access for Ukrainian startups to European market, and maybe through creating a joint consortium between European companies and Ukrainian companies, and this consortium help to realize different interesting projects. Uh, we see one of the interesting example for such cooperation is program that name Seeds of Bravery. Maybe you hear about it. It's program from European Commission that finance approximately 20 million euros for startups, mostly for Ukrainian startups that allows them to quickly develop and to enter a European market. So it's consortium between 20 different entities, and it's a great opportunity to cooperation, to implement different joint projects, and to learn market, and to develop innovative ecosystem, our joint innovative ecosystem.
Okay, but so 20 million euros, that's not a lot of money. When
Yeah,
we
yeah.
spoke earlier, you
Well,
mentioned that through this Defense and Innovation Office in Kiev that just opened, that discussions are ongoing for perhaps further support. So could you tell me a little bit about what kind of support you're eyeing? I think you mentioned perhaps the European Investment Bank could be an option that Ukraine is interested in. Could you expand on that, please?
Yeah, one interesting tendency that we see here in Ukraine, unfortunately for us, uh, we see like a competition between Ukrainian and Russian engineering school, because it's two school very strong, and for us it's problematic to scale our technology. Russian side, it's our one of our problems is that Russians scale technology solution faster than us, and for us you know it's a big problem. First of all, that we have not enough funding for scaling our technology. So we have some different state budget program for R&D activities, for creation and early stage support startups, companies, but unfortunately we have no money for scaling such technologies and provide our army all needs that that they had they have for this period.
Okay, so scaling up is a big need. Okay.
Scaling up, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and so we talked about EU funding.
Maybe,
Sorry. Yeah,
sorry,
go on.
uh, maybe we also need to think about creation joint R&D centers, maybe at the west of Ukraine, west part of Ukraine. It's joint centers that we have some important challenges that need to resolve right now that help us to protect our motherland to win in this war. This is a very important technology, crucial, critical technology for our defense sector. We need to work together. We need to find the best technology solution together. Maybe the creation of such a R&D center will be the best solution for this.
Okay, and so obviously working within the EU frameworks is quite difficult, but are there any Ukrainian frameworks within which you think cooperation could be boosted? So I think you mentioned Brave One before. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. Brave One, it's a Miltech cluster. It was created practically more than 1 years ago in the spring 2023. For now, firstly, they support Miltech startups for early stage of development, and now they support different startups for the next step for development. So it's like a state business accelerator that help our companies to grow and to create a new technology solution and to develop involve also investments. So it's a good instrument that we use firstly to involve some investments in our ecosystem because it's state fund for innovation development, and European Commission finance this fund to support our startups of the early stage, but it was about not military startups. It only startups in different sphere of activity, but not in defense sector.
Okay.
But I think we can we need to think about creation the same program, the same project, but only for defense sector, and finance through the this defense through this fund of development, innovation development, our new technology, and help them to scale up.
Okay, but right now defense is one of the funding streams under Brave One, right?
Brave One, it's a special program that relies on the base of the fund of innovation development. So it's like a cluster that was founded between and supported some our Ministry of Strategy in Industry, Ministry of Digital Transformation, Ministry of Defense, our armed forces, of course, and we all develop our defense innovation ecosystem through this instrument.
Okay, thank you. It sounds a bit like a European Innovation Council, but in Ukraine. So if that needs more funding there, and there's lots of calls for more funding for the EIC here, then perhaps, yeah, Ukrainian and European needs are very much aligned. Okay, well, thank you so much, Vitaly, for your time with us today.
One more. One more, I'd like to thank you all Ukrainian partners for the great support. We really feel it here, and we are very grateful for it. Thank you one more, and um, I am sure that we need to continue, and we together will win in this great war. Unfortunately, Ukraine has a very strong enemy, and this enemy is supported by other countries. Unfortunately, you know about it, but we really appreciate your support. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you, Vitaly. Okay, and now on to our last panel discussion. We're going to discuss how to align R&I needs in defense and civilian innovation. And for this panel, we have with us Catherine Bende from the EIB. She's the head of the new Security and Defense Office. May I ask you to join me on stage? We also have Luca Bedon, head of research and innovation at Avioaero, civil and military aeronautics company and part of General Electric. And of course, we have Signe Razzo, who is Deputy Director General at the Directorate for Research and Innovation at the European Commission. Thank you all for being here with us today. I'm hoping for a fruitful discussion. We've got 40 minutes left, so plenty of time. So, Signe, I would like to start with you. So, finding funding for defense innovation at EU level has become quite a pressing matter, right? And so there have been discussions of introducing dual-use research into the civilian research program, so currently Horizon Europe, but this would be in the future for FP10 from 2028 onwards. The Commission last year, or I think this year, held a consultation on this and published a white paper, right, with 3 options. So I wanted to ask you, where does the discussion stand right now in the Commission? What are the options on the table, and what's the discussion like?
Dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, it's my pleasure to be with you today, this afternoon, on behalf of Director General Research and Innovation. I only was able to listen to the latter part of the previous presenter, but clearly it made a lot of connections. Already for me, as you may know, we've been supporting Ukraine from our program very extensively. First, Ukraine is fully associated to our program. I've been chief negotiator for all associations. We just had the joint committee meeting with Ukraine. Well, we do have the measures in Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions in the EIC and other various areas. Now, coming to the topic at hand, first of all, as you know, we are living in an area of change for our society, for our security, just having the Ukrainian speaker. This is also the moment of choices that will define our future. Now, as you know, we are in the process of preparing for the incoming Commission. We do have the political guidelines. We also have the mission letters, which guide us in terms of what would be the priorities for the next Commission. And the guidelines, inter alia, also announce a new era for European defense and security, which would be one of the priorities for the next term. So our work will be focused on building a true European Defence Union, and for the first time, work will be carried out under the political steer of the new Commissioner for Defence and Space, which is the first time that we do have specific portfolio really devoted to that area. At the same time, the President-elect calls for putting research and innovation at the heart of our economy. As you've also seen in the Draghi report on competitiveness, also investing into research and innovation is really investing into the future competitiveness. What President von der Leyen has been proposing is to increase research spending in Europe, focusing on strategic priorities, groundbreaking fundamental research, but also disruptive innovation and scientific excellence. And European competitiveness will depend on prioritizing research and innovation, also in order to decarbonize, industrialize our economies at the same time. But as discussed in today's world, geopolitics and geoeconomics go together. Our societies are exposed to new risks and vulnerabilities more than ever before. And our security also depends on our ability to be resilient to external shocks and to reduce the risks deriving from excessive dependencies. That's why President von der Leyen has called for a new economic foreign policy and economic security, which I've understood also you discussed this morning, remains one of the central planks of this policy, which on the one hand aims to boost competitiveness and research capacity in strategic and dual-use technologies, at the same time being more assertive in protecting our assets from technology leakage, but also from security concerns. The long-term objective of investing into dual-use technologies is also to secure our technological sovereignty in areas which are important for the EU economic security. Economic security, strategic autonomy clearly rely on those. That's why the question today is whether the current EU legislative framework, which is based on a strict separation of EU funding for civilian and defense research and development activities, should also apply for the future, and how this is applied to technologies with dual-use potential. So basically whether it's apt to the challenge also for the future. That's why we need to understand the potential implications that any change of the current setup would have. There would be implications on the researchers, on innovators, on the evaluation process, on the monitoring of research results during and after the project's lifetime. At the same time, we should also acknowledge that research projects could develop technologies with dual-use potential. It's not always easy to really draw the line between those. Well, either immediately or even more so in more or less substantial adaptations. Let me stress that this is not the new debate. Actually, the Commission proposal for Horizon Europe included dual-use research, but in the deliberations, negotiations between the co-legislators, in the end it was dropped. But clearly that was a different time. 2018 is not like 2024 is. That's why now, under the new conditions, geopolitical landscape certainly justifies why we've started again the discussion. That's why also held the public consultation with an array of different stakeholders from civil society, industry, academia, and public authorities through the white paper on dual-use research. This triggered almost 250 replies. One could ask whether it's sufficient ground. Now, also, what we've seen in the replies is that the tendency which was most favorable among respondents from research, institutions, NGOs, and citizens who also expressed themselves, was favorable to maintain this strict separation. At the same time, public authorities, business associations, private companies tended actually to be more open, also to the not the exclusive focus on civil applications. Certainly now we will take into account the feedback also in the reflections for the future funding programs. But the outcomes do not bind the Commission, because the Commission, as you know, has the right for initiative for the legislation. But certainly, as you can also understand, any political decisions concerning the future program will be then taken by the new incoming college. Now, looking at the short term, we will continue to operate under the existing rules with an exclusive focus on civil applications. However, we are also looking for ways how to explore modalities to improve synergies and cross-fertilization of both civil and defense technologies to the extent that it's possible under the current legislative framework.
Of course, and so any changes would be introduced from 2028 onwards, and it's up to the member states to a large extent. But up until that point, do you plan to test any approaches? Do you plan to pilot anything? You said that it's important to explore, how this is going to affect the civilian research program, right? So will you explore what introducing dual-use research, allowing it into the program would be like? Will you pilot anything, essentially?
Well, for the time being, we have the legislative framework, which we need to follow. But as I said, that's not always clear. Really in the future applications, because as you know, many of one can take an example of a drone. Well, a drone can be designed in order to do surveillance of transport, electricity, whatever. But certainly, as you know, and as we've seen now with the innovations, which actually have been the necessity for the Ukrainians in the current war, certainly the future applications may be different. Yeah. However, this is not what we would finance from Horizon Europe program or the work programs, because here, as I said, we do have the legislative framework, which really then ask us to stay within the civilian applications.
Okay, so Luca, may I turn to you? So we're talking about the next EU budget. Right now, everything's kind of up in the air. So from an industry perspective, what would be the ideal setup to best support defense research and innovation, while also, respecting the research ecosystem in Europe without, compromising on it?
Well, very good question, and thanks for having me here today to talk about that. I'm really glad to hear that in the next program, research innovation will have a certain importance, will remain at the core of the European competency. I think that's an important element we need to consider. Talking about, I can speak about the industrial perspective, especially from my sector, which is the aerospace aviation one. I can also bring the positive results that the European ecosystem was able to deliver within the R&I through the multi-program experience we did in Clean Sky 1, Clean Sky 2, now Clean Aviation. So that was a very important journey that are bringing the aerospace segment in Europe still in the lead, if you look the overall global context. Unfortunately, we cannot say the same for what concerns defense, because over the last decades, we were probably losing competencies and capabilities and capacity, because there has been a different decision taken in order to support investment on the defense side. So refocus now on technology is really a must. And if you ask me what I would like to see, it's probably a kind of great expectation that we're going to see different instruments and tools that will enable us to boost the technology maturation and to recover a gap that we actually mature over decades, I would say. So it's not easy to recover a kind of gap that has been consolidated. So we need to consider the differences between the civil market and the aerospace one. So we cannot really play in the defense side as we are doing on the civil one, because there are still some boundaries between the different countries. So we are already experiencing some of those as we work on under the EDF program as I speak. So it's not that simple to really connect one partner in a country with another one. You need to go through multiple steps to get licenses. So the process is quite complicated. So if I need to summarize what will be my ideal future in that side, is a framework in which we can really have investment similar to what we had already in the civil one, but also remove some of the complexity that are typically part of the defense side as we talk as a Europe.
Okay, but very much dedicated support is important so that it's shaped around the needs of the defense industry.
Yes.
From what I understand. Okay, and when you say very much to the same extent as the civilian program, do you mean 100 billion?
Well, I would say that based on what I said before, that there is a significant gap to be recovered. That I would say is a starting point, because the level of investment we need to do is very significant if you want to catch up where all the other leading countries are already there.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you in a second on the question of dual use and integrating different funds. But Catherine, can I turn to you? So you've started a new job, essentially, in May. You're the head of the new Defense and Security Office at the European Investment Bank. And the European Investment Bank has made some segue into dual use. Could you tell us a little bit about the new funding options, the new definition, from what I understand, of dual use? What's new at the EIB, and why should innovators care?
Thank you. Good afternoon also from my side. Very happy to be here in this panel. Thank you for the invitation. So indeed, as most of you may know, the European Investment Bank is the investment bank of the European Union, meaning that our shareholders are the EU member states. And early this year, our shareholders asked the EIB to step up support to the security and defense industry. And our new president, Nadia Calvino, announced a new action plan in the ECOFIN in April. And we have come up in May with a new action plan to step up our support to security and defense in the EU. Basically, the two key elements of this action plan is that, firstly, we have revised our definition of what is dual use. So before, in the EIB, a dual-use project was a project where more than 50% of revenues, expected revenues, would derive from civilian applications. So to say it in simple terms, a dual-use project was for us a project which was primarily civilian. This revenue test has been waived. So today, the EIB group can finance projects dual use as long as they have one civilian application or a potential one. So as long as a project can demonstrate that even 1% of the expected revenues would come from civilian application, or that the technology developed may be used in the future for civilian applications, we are now entitled to finance a project. So this is, I think, a big step. And the second major element is that we are providing intermediated finance, meaning that we work with local banks to finance smaller projects, SMEs, mid-caps. Before, an SME or mid-cap active in the defense sector was not entitled to benefit from these credit lines. Today, again, this is removed, so through our intermediate financing, we can finance SMEs and mid-caps active in the defense sectors. So to give you a few examples of projects we have financed recently, we have financed the deployment of satellites which are used both for civilian and defense applications in Poland. We have financed the expansion of a Danish port to allow military vessels to come in. We have financed also fire engines in Greece, but we finance also smaller, more innovative projects. So to do that, we have a wide range of financing products, ranging from loans, guarantee, equity, advisory services. So I would say we really cover the whole range of maturities in terms of projects. We have, for instance, and this is valid for research and development, which is also the topic of today, the European Investment Fund, which is our subsidiary, has launched a new defense equity facility, 175 million, using money from EDF and money from the EIB to provide equity to venture capital and private equity funds developing dual-use technologies. Maybe I will stop here.
Yeah, okay. So lots of new stuff. But so can you tell me a little bit about what the reaction has been on the market? Have you seen a shift in the kind of companies that apply for funding from the EIB? Have you seen a shift in the kind of companies that you fund?
So for the moment, we are very busy promoting this action plan. So we are going through a roadshow across EU countries to explain to industry associations, SME, mid-caps, large corporate, what we can do. We have identified a number of, let's say, challenges, which include setting up proper confidentiality framework within the EIB to enable companies to share sensitive information. We have also realized that the InvestEU mandate may not be adapted to finance defense companies. So we are working at the moment at different levels to provide a better framework for this. And to be very honest, so we have projects now coming in, but we were expecting a higher demand. So, and that's why we are sharing this message. No, we are equipped now to finance dual-use projects, and we are waiting for applications. So to be very honest and transparent, we have projects gradually coming in, but it hasn't been a huge shift since we announced this action plan.
I guess it takes time. Sorry, Signe, you wanted to...
If I just perhaps to complement, we've also working very closely hand in hand with the EIB. First of all, on the also on the definition of dual use, because it's not always very clear what we mean by that. Now, I'd also like to highlight perhaps what we've been already doing, even if I've said that we need to exclusively focus on civilian applications. However, some of the technologies can have a potential dual-use applications, potential. And I can mention the EIC Accelerator, which has supported SMEs and startups with promising technologies, innovations with dual-use potential. And as of 2023, access to the EIC Transition Scheme, which provides follow-up support to develop commercial applications, namely from research results, has been also open to proposals, following up on results achieving through defense R&D activities under the EDF on the conditions that the proposals target exclusively civil applications, which we can then find on the horizon. And we've also analyzed opportunities for and constraints on strengthening support to technologies with a dual-use potential through the EU Defence Innovation Scheme, EUDIS, and spin-on calls under the EU Defence Innovation Scheme proved actually highly successful. Namely, the Commission and the European Defence Agency are cooperating also to continue systematically scanning results from civil programs to assess defense potential for future uptake. So, as said, also the possibilities are there, but as said, we need to follow the legal base of our program.
But within that legal base, there are
Yeah.
ways to explore these synergies before 2028. Okay, great. And Luca, this made me think of you, because you mentioned that working with the European Defence Fund was quite complicated. And from what I understand, that's because the usual EU rules apply, right? And they're quite stringent. So this whole discussion about dual use, from an industry perspective, is the EIB financing, for example, interesting to you, considering that, you know, this is a new scheme, you don't necessarily know how it works, and, you know, the definitions of dual use are still quite unclear.
I think it's been already said that the definition is still quite unclear, and it's subject to different consideration and different evaluation depending on what you're actually looking for, because I think it's important to make some consideration on that. So it's already quite complicated if you think about the final application. The drone is a very good example. If you go one level down, you consider a subsystem, a component, or even a smaller technology element which is going to be part of a future product. The question about what dual use is still there, but the answer could be different. So you can really start to develop a technology at a lower technology readiness, and you don't know if it's going to be applied on a civil application, a military application, or it could be dual use, I would say. So is it correct to constrain the possibility to develop the technology because there is a potential future application in the military side? My answer is probably no. So when it comes to component and technology, we probably need to be very careful in not restraining the possibility to advance the technology maturation, because we don't know where is going to be the actual future application. There are probably many things that we have in our pocket today that could be considered now dual use, but because they have some microchip or other stuff, but at the time you start to develop those components, you actually don't know that. So when you migrate this consideration on the ecosystem and the industrial footprint that we need to use, that's bringing the complexity I was saying. So there are single component, a single technology that are matured by very small SMEs or small company, and they don't have the possibility to work in the defense side. So, and maybe they are not really interested. Once you integrate those elements, you really develop a defense system that is quite clear. But this gray area is still where we need to be very smart and very careful in order to protect what we would like to protect, and leave the possibility to innovate to the right companies.
Okay. And so, Signe, may I turn to you again? Yesterday, the HATOR group released the report on the next framework program, essentially. And one of the recommendations is on dual use. And I believe it says, let me check, that the introduction of dual use applications in the civilian program is inevitable, and that rather than adhering to a strict dichotomy between dual use and civil research, the framework program should embrace it. So what do you make of this? From what Luca is saying, I think that would be welcome to introduce dual use into the framework programs and make it a bit less complex. But actually, can we come back to you in a second? Sorry. Signe.
Well, this is the recommendation by the high-level group of independent experts. These are their recommendations. Well, as said, we've also had the public consultation where we've collected the views of different stakeholders. As I said, the Commission has the right for initiative. We work in as you know, that's the College of Commissioners working in a collegial way. So certainly then with the Commission proposal, for the next MFF, the set of programs, certainly this would be one of the certainly one of the things to be considered and decided at the time when Commission comes up with its proposal.
Okay. So we won't know
Of course
until
not.
yeah.
Nobody knows it now. The college, as you know, is expected to start on the 1st of December. This should be really the decision for the next college, because that's the next college that will make a proposal for the next MFF, where also research and innovation funding will be part of
But the expert group report will be one of the key reports feeding into the Commission's opinion, right?
Yes, there are the different reports. Well, now it's this Hader group report. You know, well, I mentioned also the report, the drug report on competitiveness, letter report on the internal market, where, if you remember, there is also the recommendation to have the fifth freedom for the research and education. So certainly all of these will be feeding into the process, but not only just the reports, but certainly we also have our legal procedures. The Commission will prepare impact assessment, which would be the basis for the next proposal, for the next framework program. This work has started. Certainly there are several studies that we've also launched in order to feed into the process. We've had the ex-post evaluation of the previous program, Horizon 2020, telling us what were really the areas which the analysis and the evidence shows would have been successful. Well, we are research and innovation DG. We really need to base our work on the basis of evidence. And we certainly have several sources for evidence in order to make the decisions once the time comes.
Okay.
But as I said at the beginning, certainly as the previous proposal already included that, now we are living in an age of geopolitical tensions. Well, certainly this would be very seriously considered, that's for sure.
Okay. Catherine, could I put a similar question to you? So we're talking about, when it comes to DAB, the EU budget as a whole. Do you think there should be clear distinction between civilian and defense budgets, or do you think this kind of dual-use place that you operate in now is kind of this ambiguous funding welcome, or do you need more clear budget envelopes to make your work easier?
Yes, so I would say, based on the feedback from the market that we have received so far, this dual-use aspect is indeed ambiguous, and is creating indeed a lot of issues. So at the EIB, we would more than welcome, a bigger mandate for defense, knowing that, of course, we are policy takers and not policy givers. So we will have to work with the Commission and our shareholders to prioritize. But I just wanted to make maybe two comments which are related to that, because the first thing is that we always hear, companies, dual-use companies that cannot scale up in the EU because of a lack of instrument. And I just want to add a caveat to that, because I think we are relatively well-equipped in terms of financing instruments, but we often forget to mention the role of, revenues, because at the IB, we are often told, but we need more, more money, more instruments. But at the end, we are a bank. So to lend money, you are lending money to projects which derive revenues. So I'm just opening the thing here to say also what is the role of the public sector here in anchor customers to ensure, to support, more innovative projects and help them to scale up, because when you have revenues, these projects will access financing more easily. And the second point I wanted to mention is that I think there are other, on top of funding, there are policy initiatives to think about to also unlock the scale-up of defense in the EU, which are joint procurement. I think this is a key topic which must be addressed, and the clarification on ESG interpretation. And we are working with the Commission and with the European Defence Agency on that, because this will also certainly unlock a lot of financing from the private sector.
If I may, just to add another dimension. Well, one of my hats that I'm wearing is also I'm responsible for all international collaboration in our program, including being the chief negotiator for Horizon Association. As I mentioned, if you add this additional dimension, then one also need to be aware that it would also then mean to whom we can then open our program and to which extent. Because now, say, the associated countries, they can participate on par, basically, with the EU member states, whether would be then the case also, if we include also dual use. You know that we already have the possibility for exclusions for some calls. We have the relevant articles in the legal base, which we are using now because of our strategic autonomy, security related issues. Now the question would be then whether we can still open the whole program, whether that would be part of the programs, which would be open, then open to whom, under which conditions. So this raises a lot of questions as well. Just wanted also to mention this dimension as well, because now we've seen that our program has really become global. Now we've opened it up for countries like Canada, New Zealand, South Korea, Japan, and certainly this certainly makes our program also more attractive. You know that the more internationally open you are, the more you collaborate internationally, the more excellent you become. So it's the benefit for both. Now the question would be what kind of implications it would have if now we also make this kind of changes. I just wanted to mention this additional dimension as well.
No, that's really important to highlight, because obviously if Horizon, FP10 becomes a bit more restrictive because of the dual use introduction, that may jeopardize international cooperation, and that's an important conversation to have. So we've got 2 minutes left. Can I ask you then, looking to the next EU budget in 2028, what's the most important question to answer? What's the big kind of elephant in the room of how it's going to work? Who wants to go first? Too many?
Yes, too many questions.
Too many questions.
Rather than make a question, I will summarize what I think we were discussing today. I think more than a question is back to the first question you made me, what would be an ideal or desired situation there? Sorry if I turn the question back in an answer. Is again, summarizing what we said, I think we made progress on the defense side, initiating a program like EDF. I think we need to work on that to make it more effective, when it's clearly aligned to military and defense. That's a clear path. Let's simplify that. Let's have the possibility to speed up all the collaboration across the country, because again, Europe is not unified from the perspective, so we are struggling a lot to make it work. I'm not talking about the civil side. I probably would hope not to see a third bucket with a military dual use application as a hybrid model in between, which is going to be probably a drawback or is going to drain a lot of energy from us.
So I would say what I would like to see are basically more pan-European projects. It's also linked to what you're saying. So what we want to see is to see some countries leading this, because at the moment the fragmentation is really the key issue. It's maybe idealistic to think that the 27 countries will agree, but if we have, some larger program projects, I think it will already be something.
Signe, for the finishing
No,
words.
well, if you're asking about the budget, if you then read all these reports, recommendations, I think everybody is saying, well, you need to invest more. And not just only for the European programs, but all the countries, all the EU member states need to invest more in research and innovation, because it means investing into the future. Well, we do have the target of 3% of GDP for the last 20 years. We haven't still met it, so that could be a high time to do that.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much. That's a wrap. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our lovely audience in person and online. Thank you to our sponsors, Novartis and Avioero, and also to the Science Business Network. We have a networking reception here after we're all done, so I hope you can all stay. And yeah, if you're not subscribed to our newsletters, please do. If you found today engaging, you're definitely going to find something engaging to read about. We have 2 newsletters, Tuesdays and Thursdays, one on policy, one on funding. There's something for everyone. So please check them out. And we'll see you all for a drink, except for the people online.